All right. Well, welcome everyone to today's Process Mining Academy session. Vancouver Early Access was released this week, and new releases are always exciting for us here at ServiceNow. So today we'll be doing a high-level flyover of all the new enhancements for process mining, and then in future sessions, we'll be doing deeper dives into different areas. There's certain topics that we'll be covering today that really warrant a session to themselves, which is always fun to have something like that. Now, the first thing that you'll probably notice is I'm not saying process optimization. That is the first what's new in Vancouver. So from Vancouver onward, process optimization will be known as process mining. The name change is probably going to take a little while for us to get used to. Certainly me. It's kind of like when the Washington football team became the Commanders. I still can't call them the Commanders on a regular basis, but the name's going to kind of be reflected in all communications, documentation, and product interfaces going forward. So the content's going to take a little bit of time to get updated, but we'll get there. And assuming I can figure out how to do it, I'll be renaming the academy to the ServiceNow Process Mining Academy wherever I can. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to keep the same invite since we've got hundreds that are registered for the academy at this point. All right, let's get the Academy logistics out of the way quickly. The purpose of these sessions are to help us all get better educated on ServiceNow's in-platform process mining capabilities. We'll provide how-tos, practical guidance and use cases, product updates like today's session, and just as a group exchange ideas and collaborate so we can all continue to get better. How the sessions work? Well, we have a scheduled topic. And we'll cover that usually for the first 30 minutes or so. Then we'll open it up for questions on the chosen topic for the session. And we'll open it up for questions above and beyond the day's topic, sort of like an office hours. And these sessions are recorded and then they eventually get posted on the community. Finally, feel free to post your questions in the Q&A section. I'll do my best to answer them every time we have one of these. And then for situations where we don't have an answer for your question immediately, I try to follow up and post them to the Process Optimization, soon to be Process Mining Community Product Hub page. And then, sometimes we use them for a future topic for a session. This is the slide that says, hey, anything I say and do here today can't be held against me in the court of law. It's also the slide that says, hey, as part of these conversations, if we happen to make any forward-looking statements about what may be coming in future releases, you should take them as such and make no decisions based on them because they're always subject to change. I'm assuming at this point you've read the fine print. All right, so, I gotta introduce myself. For those that I've not met before, my name is Dan Grady. I'm part of the product team here for ServiceNow's process mining solution. What we'll be covering here today, we'll start out like always with a quick process mining 101 for our newcomers. Then we're going to dive into what's new for process mining in Vancouver. There's several enhancements, some of them really, really exciting. Some of them are targeted at very specific use cases that some of you may have come across and given us feedback on, and we've now made those enhancements for you. We'll dive into a demo of some of them. We'll get your questions answered. We'll talk a little bit more about how to get started after today's session, and then we'll talk about some additional resources above and beyond these academy sessions that are out there for you. All right. As always, we start with the quick process mining 101 for our newcomers. With everything we do, there's a design and desired path in our minds for how it should work and how things should play out. Whether that be planning an event like these Process Mining Academy sessions or a workflow or business process you have running on the ServiceNow platform. And when you design things, you design for efficiency as well as completeness to provide the best experience possible for as many people as possible. Unfortunately, what we design isn't always what ends up happening in reality. The reality is that not all work flowing through a given process is going to take the optimal path. And that's going to have a negative impact on the experience that both the employees requesting the service have, as well as the people that are working to provide that service. Identifying what is actually happening within our workflows or business processes and then improving them isn't always the easiest thing to do. What in-platform process mining allows us to do is use the audit log data that is generated as records move through a given workflow on the ServiceNow platform to create a visual representation of what is actually happening within a given process or workflow. And this new level of visibility helps us accelerate our ability to identify inefficiencies, non-conformant process activities, and ultimately improvement opportunities. Process mining gives us the ability to answer process questions that have historically been very challenging for us to answer. So where traditional analytics will allow us to answer a lot of the what questions about our processes, process mining helps us answer the why. So things like, where is the process getting stuck? Where is their rework happening? Or where are tickets ping-ponging between groups? Where aren't we conforming to the process we designed? These are all things that haven't been easy for us to answer or act upon in the past. And now we're able to do that with process mining in a couple of clicks. We like to say that process mining is going to get you to the why behind all of your KPIs. And in doing so, it empowers everyone involved in the process to make data-driven decisions about what improvements to make. I will point out here, first name change. You'll notice in Vancouver, the process optimization workspace is now called the process mining workspace. All right, on to Vancouver and all the goodness that it provides. So you may or may not know, process mining was initially released in Quebec, and we've made rapid and significant enhancements to the solution over the last few releases. And of course, Vancouver is no different. From an overarching perspective, we're always focused on accelerating our customers' time to value, empowering everyone with process mining insights, and then providing end-to-end process visibility. The enhancements that we've released in the Vancouver release align to those core themes, whether it's the new automated finding capability that's automatically going to surface common process inefficiencies for you, or the process map dashboard widget that allows you to bring process mining insights into the persona-based dashboards that you're creating on your own, or the ability now to apply process mining capabilities to the strategic portfolio management offering that we have on the platform. But there's plenty to be excited about with the Vancouver release, so let's just dive into each of the individual components on their own. So for most organizations, there's no shortage of process improvement opportunities. It's identifying all of them and then prioritizing them, which ones to focus on. That's a pretty daunting task. With the new automated finding capability in the Vancouver release, we're going to start streamlining that process for you. So prior to Vancouver, we offered some out-of-the-box improvement opportunities via content packs, and those provided rule-based insights based on finding definitions. And there's a whole section on finding definitions if you want to learn more about that. Now, in addition to the definitions that ServiceNow provides customers, you also had the ability to create your own definitions based on your knowledge of the processes running inside of your organization. These are still important and they aren't going anywhere. But in Vancouver, we now provide automated findings for common process inefficiencies like rework, ping pong, and extra steps. These are all situations that potentially slow a process down and impact overall productivity. So now you can simply mine your data, and process mining is automatically going to surface work that is some form of rework going on, meaning it progressed through a number of steps in the process, and then it went back to one of them. Process mining is also going to surface ping pong scenarios where work is bouncing back and forth between steps, groups, or individuals. And then finally, the extra step detector will highlight situations where we have a variant of the process with one additional or extra step that could be slowing us down. Those automated findings will be available on the new revamped summary and insights page in Vancouver. Will they all be things that you need to act upon? Probably not, but by automatically surfacing them and then allowing someone to flag the ones worth following up on, that's going to significantly accelerate our ability to identify process improvement opportunities. Note, I just want to call out here, when we start talking about who can configure these automated findings, you're going to need to have the process optimization admin or process optimization power user role to do that, to make these or configure these. And this is an area where we'll probably have a whole separate session just on automated findings, because there's a lot to them. Now, with the addition of the new automating findings, it was important for us to update the summary and insights page to more effectively communicate the opportunities and their potential impact. So improvement opportunities are now automatically grouped and summarized by category, type, and the KPIs that they're going to impact. In addition to the summarized views, users can take action on any of the individual opportunities in the list view at the bottom by either viewing the process map for that opportunity that was presented in the workbench, or generating some additional machine learning based insights like root cause or the cluster analysis that you're probably familiar with. Now in Vancouver, we also start to extend the reach of the powerful process insights that process mining provides. There's now a process map component that can be incorporated into the persona-based dashboards that you're creating on your own. So business users will now be able to get a complete view of their process KPIs, operational data, and process performance in a single view, which is going to allow them to make decisions about where to make adjustments much more quickly. This week, I joined a Platform Analytics Academy session. It was kind of like a crossover episode. I don't know if you remember when like the Globetrotters were on Scooby-Doo. And this is kind of like what happened. And when we were talking to, it was probably 100 or so folks that were interested in just platform analytics and performance analytics templates. When we mentioned this new capability, dominated the conversation. There was a lot of excitement about the ability to bring that process map to the dashboards that you're creating. Now, there are a number of enhancements that we made at the core process mining engine level to support a few more advanced use cases. The first is the ability to select specific activity values when configuring your projects. So for those that are not overly familiar, activities are the steps that we see and use as part of our process analysis on the map. And there's going to be situations where we may only need a certain set of activity values to do our analysis. For example, we could be doing some assignment group transfer analysis, and we were interested in understanding how long it takes for the first group to get assigned, the time between any group transfers, and then how long it takes for the last group to actually finish and resolve the work. The ideal map in that situation would have both state and assignment group as the activities on the map, but we would only really want to show maybe, let's say, the resolved and the closed state in that scenario. In Vancouver, analysts now have the ability and the flexibility to choose which activity values to include in their projects to support these types of specific scenarios. So question came in about the process map dashboard widget. It's available as a next experience component. I should have mentioned that earlier. So it's something that you're adding from when you're designing your dashboards in the platform analytics workspace. It's not a component that's available for what I'll call the more traditional dashboards. All right. Next, we've got the second core engine enhancement that allows an analyst to represent a related activity on a process map, even if that activity isn't included in the records audit log itself. This is a little advanced, but it's certainly an important one and for a very specific use case. So for example, an incident's breach time might not be stored on the incident record itself, but for certain analysis, it's valuable to show when the breach actually occurred on the process map itself. Analysts now have the ability to incorporate those timestamp pieces of information from related tables into or as part of their projects. We'll look at this inside of a demonstration, but it's, breach time is very common. Maybe it's the time when a knowledge article got attached. Being able to show when and where that happens on a map is pretty powerful for certain types of analysis. And this brings me to the third enhancement. The third enhancement improves our visibility into processes that have parallel or sub-processes. So we can use our multi-dimensional maps to visualize these things where you want to look at, let's say, incidents and the tasks associated with them. In Vancouver, we've made it easier for process analysts to understand exactly when and where connected processes intersect or interact by giving them the ability to add an activity on the primary or parent process map. So just a separate node on the map. And by having this separate node, like if you look at the screenshot here where I have when the incident task was attached within that parent map, it gives us the ability to do ad hoc transition filtering analysis to isolate specific inefficient routes. So really powerful. And again, I'll show this inside of the demonstration in a few minutes so you can see how it would work. Now, speaking of ad hoc transition filter analysis, in Utah, we added a capability called activity of interest. which allowed us to create more advanced finding definitions using contextual activity data, which we didn't need to display on the map. We didn't, sometimes you want to use a value in a finding definition or in your analysis, but you don't want to really show it on the map because the map could get a little bit cluttered. So with this activity of interest, it allowed us to analyze situations where maybe a priority was changed during the process, but we didn't really want to see priority visualized on the map itself. What we've done in Vancouver is we've extended that capability to use activities of interest, but you can now do it via the ad hoc transition filter analysis right from within the process mining workspace itself. So Utah, you could use activities of interest in your finding definitions that had to be configured pre-mining of the data. In Vancouver, we now give you the flexibility to start using these activities of interest in your ad hoc mining questions. So you're looking at a map, you have a certain question you want to ask and get answered by the data. You can now use activity of interest there. All right, so let's just wrap up with end-to-end process visibility. So every customer who has seen process mining in action recognizes the value it provides. And then the wheels start spinning and everyone gets to thinking, well, what about what are all the different opportunities and processes that we'd like to have this level of visibility into? And the conversation usually turns into, what about this process? And what about this process? Our goal is to be able to answer yes and provide that end-to-end process visibility to our customers across every workflow that's running on the platform and beyond. In Vancouver, we take another step in that direction. So prior to Vancouver, we offered in-platform process mining coverage for ITSM, customer service management, and that includes all the industry workflows, HR case and lifecycle events, field service management, and of course, applications that customers have created on their own with App Engine. In Vancouver, we've now extended that coverage for strategic portfolio management. And for these in-platform workflows, customers not only get the advantage of direct access to the data needed for mining, which gives you the ability to get to the visibility you want, or to the reality of your workflows in a matter of minutes, which is a huge advantage from a process mining perspective, is the speed in which you get the insights when you look at in-platform workflows. But you also get the value-added content packs that come with some of those pre-packaged improvement opportunities to help you jumpstart your analytics. We're not going to spend time on process mining for strategic portfolio management here today, but in the next session next month, we're going to have that team, the product team for strategic portfolio management, or SPM, come on and do a whole session on process mining for it. Just going to jump on over to the demo now. And we'll extend my session and we'll look at a couple of these things in action. Like I said, some of them we'll have deeper dive sessions on, but just let's look at some of these in action today. We'll start on that summary and insights page. Excuse me. And what you'll notice, again, we have our same goals and KPIs. These are configurable by you. So you can put your own key performance indicators or dashboards on the summary and insights page. But as we scroll down the screen, you'll notice we start to get these improvement opportunities categorized in different ways. So the first widget that you're going to see on the dashboard now is going to take the improvement opportunities that are generated, whether they be automated findings or the ones that you've created on your own or the ones that come from content packs. And then we'll group them by category. There's 4 categories that they can be grouped by: conformance, performance, quality, and automation. And then as you start to create your own, now you're going to have the ability to organize the improvement opportunities into different types. I believe there's about 10 to 15 different types of inefficiencies or improvement opportunities that are out there. So things like long resolution time, manual work, rework, extra steps, ping pong. So you can start looking at the volumes of opportunities or things that fell into these different opportunity types. And then, of course, when we think about process mining, the inefficiencies that we're trying to identify and then improve upon, they're always tied back to certain KPIs that we're trying to improve for our process. So things like MTTR, backlog, first call resolution rate. So now as you start to configure these improvement opportunities, you're going to be able to link them to KPIs and get a sense of where your biggest opportunities are and which opportunities will have the biggest impact on which KPIs. As I move down from that summary and insights, or the improvement opportunities overview, you get your list of improvement opportunities. And this is blended of both the automated findings as well as the findings definitions that come with the content packs and that you create on your own. So things like, let's say we wanted to look at our incidents that are going into awaiting caller info. We'll see that this has a type of long resolution time. It impacts our MTTR KPI. You get your average duration, your total inefficiency, and then the standard deviation. And then right from here, we could either view these in the workbench, or maybe I want to run that root cause analysis on them to see what my key contributors are to this opportunity, or come over here and use the clustering on the platform to look at some of that unstructured data inside of these tickets that are there. Or maybe I want to come down here and you'll notice that that was one that we may have created on our own, but then I have my automated findings, my rework, or my extra step detectors, or my ping ponging. These were things that we didn't have to configure really anything. It was in the past, you would have to configure each of the individual finding definitions. These automated findings, you configure one rework example and it finds all the different times that happens within the process. So for example, in this case, it identified 490 incidents in this case in which additional info was an extra step between in progress and resolved. And what we can do here is right from here, maybe we want to visualize that over in the workbench. It'll load up the workbench for just those records. And if I expand this out, what you'll see is I basically have a very straightforward row or process, but then I have those 490, which were an additional step to the new assigned in progress and resolved path. All right, so I can start looking at these. I can do my variation analysis. I'll only have the two paths. Here's the main path, the 1800 incidents that went through new assigned in progress, resolved, and closed. And then my 490 in which awaiting caller info was just that one additional step to that flow. And it looks like on average, that additional step is adding 4 days. So an extra step was added to the process. And now we're able to see that and focus in on that specific scenario and see what might be causing it. So we could drill down on just these 490 that have that extra step and start doing our analysis. We won't do that here today, but I want to show you now how we might configure one of these detectors or automated findings, if you will. So we'll just edit this project. And what you'll see inside of the project itself now, in the past, what we had is we had our project and process finding definitions. These are all now, these are the ones that were rule-based, that either came with a content pack or the ones that you created on your own. We have our automated finding definitions here. So these are those rework, ping pong, extra step detectors, and they get listed out here. What you'll notice is I don't have the ability to create a new one here at the project level. These are all created at the process level now, or process configuration level, and then imported into this project. So let's just go take a look at that process configuration for our incident table. And what we'll see is I've got my automated finding definitions. I'll just walk through what goes into creating one of these. So I'll just say new here. And we'll just say this is the Academy. And we'll say assignment group extra step. We'll just say assignment group. Yes, extra step. We have to give this a type. So which type of automated finding will it be? Well, it's going to be an extra step detector. Well, what category of finding will this be? Well, if there's an extra step in it, it's going to impact our performance, let's say, or slow us down. And then what field do we want to look for extra steps on? We'll say our assignment group. And now I will select a KPI or 2 or 3 that this would impact. And we'll just say MTTR in this case. So now I've configured this automated finding. We hit submit. And if I did that properly, we now have 5 automated findings. And what I can do is if I come back to my project, what we'll need to do, let's just edit this again, edit the project, is in order to include that in my next mine, we need to import the finding definitions. So you'll see that there's this new import process finding templates. So we say import process finding templates. That's going to go out and it's going to tell me what it added. In this case, it added 1 additional automated finding definition to this project. And next time we remind this, we'll start getting some extra steps for our assignment group. So if there's more than one assignment group transfer in a flow. That is our automated findings and how you would configure one of them. Like I said, we'll probably do a whole section or session on automated findings. Let's go back to our process mining workspace and look at some other examples here. All right, the next one, let's look at this specific entity value project. And this is going to be that scenario where, hey, we want to create a map that's going to have multiple activities on it, but we don't need all the values for the specific activities. So in this case here, we've created this map that's got both state and assignment group on it, but we're only going to be showing, let's just blow this out a little bit. In this case here, you see we've got our assignment groups. We'll be able to see the time between assignment group transfers, but we're only showing the resolved and closed state on this map. That gives us the ability to start seeing, okay, this is how long it took the team to get assigned, the transfers times, but then, how long that last team took to get the work completed, we'll be able to see on the map. And what we had to do to configure this one to get just those values, if you go into your project, and if we look at our table configuration, you'll notice that we've got two activities configured to this table, both state and assignment group. You can see from the list, though, we've only selected those specific values of resolved and closed. And where we would do that is at the activity level, you now have a checkbox that says choose activity values. Great. And we chose resolved and closed in this state. So you can come in here and say, okay, which fields do you want to include inside of this? In this case, we just chose those two states from the list. So that just gives you a little bit more control in terms of what you're showing on the map or what you'd like to show on the map. All right, the next example that we'll look at is that child attached node on the map. So if we come in here, let's look at this incident task attached project. And you'll notice that I've started to get smaller and smaller demo data here. We're not looking at nearly as many records for some of these examples because I had to create the specific scenarios for these. All right, so let's look at this one here. What you'll notice on the map, and I'll just zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. What I have on this map now is we've got incident and our incident task table over here. And what we're able to look at is, hey, where in the process was an incident task attached? And now I have a specific node that I can add to the map so I can see where in that process this actually happens. All right, so now I've got, hey, come in here, in progress, 30 seconds before the incident is attached, and then 4 minutes for to get the resolved. So one, it allows me to start seeing kind of the durations between when something moved to in progress to actual work or sub work being created. But I also then, now that I have this node on the map, I can start using it in transition filters. So I can come in here and say, hey, how long does it take from when the incident got attached to it actually moving into the state or the incident task getting attached to it moving to the state of resolve, let's say. And maybe I only want to care about things that took longer than 2 days from the time the incident task got attached to the state of resolve. And now I can isolate it down. So by putting that node on the map, it gives us some more readability in the map itself, but it also gives us some more flexibility in terms of how we ask ad hoc questions of the process data that we're looking at on the map. Really a lot of power by just adding this one single node. How does that get configured? Well, let's come over here and edit our project again. And you'll notice that this is a multi-dimensional map in which we've got two tables configured, incident and incident task in this case. If I open up my incident table here and I look at my activity definitions for the incident table, you'll notice I've got my core state field value activity, but I've also got this child attached activity. And this is, you'll know, in Vancouver, there's actually 3 types of activities now. We've got our field values, we've got our child attached, and our date time. And really what we do here is when we select child attached, you just say, okay, which child table do you want to look at when it was attached? In this case, we only had one incident task, and then you give it a name. That's really all there needs to do to set this up. Pretty straightforward, but again, a lot of power and flexibility for certain types of analysis that you're trying to do. All right, let's go back, and I've got another example. Let's look at that situation where we might want to use a timestamp and attach it or visualize when a certain thing happened, and that timestamp data may not live in the audit log table. So this example here is about SLA breach times. Usually the SLA breach data lives outside of the incident audit log, right? It's a table that doesn't have an audit log on the platform, but it's a really useful piece of information to have, that the exact time when an SLA breach occurred. So in this example here, what we've done is we've added assignment group to the main map here, as well as a couple of different states. So just assignment group resolved. And you'll notice now we've added a child task node of SLA breach on this. And when I click on this, I can start looking at specifically, all right, these tickets went to these groups. Awesome. How long did it take? What did it sit in these groups before the SLA breach occurred? And then how long after the SLA breach occurred did it actually go to another group? So very useful analysis. And then if I look at my SLA breach table itself, I can actually see the specific times where the breach occurred, and then how long it took to go back to the next group. So in this case here, I can see that the breach happened, and then 51 seconds later, it went over to this billing support group. Again, this is just my demo data, but you can get the idea. Like by having that ability to take the specific breach time, visualize it on the map, you can start doing analysis around, hey, which group had it for a certain amount of time before the breach occurred? When did the breach occur? Got it, cool. How long before it transferred it to another team potentially? Or how long did it, after the breach did it take for us to resolve? Right? Sometimes you have situations that once the breach happens, people just don't care anymore because they've already missed that one. It's not going to count in their percentage in terms of things they've made SLAs for. It's already, if that's the metric they're using. And now you can see things that just sit out there after SLA breach for days, if not weeks and months sometimes. So just very useful new capability for certain types of analysis, specifically SLA breach, but also for things like maybe when a knowledge article gets attached. If we come over here and we edit the project and look at what we've done, this is again another example in which we used our multi-dimensional capability, and we have tables visualized, two different tables visualized, both incident and task SLA. If we look at the task SLA table that we configured here, one, we made it a child relationship of the incident table. And then in the activity definition we set up for our task SLA table, we used a date time field. So this is that second new additional type of activity, a date time field. It knows, since it is not the parent table and it doesn't have audit logs, we're specifically only going to be able to add date time values as our activities. In this case, we chose breach time as our field, but it will only show us date time fields here. So we configured that. And then, of course, if we go back to the parent table configuration, you'll notice that we have our child field attached as our activity definition for that linkage to the task SLA table to get the map that we just had. Really, again, a powerful capability, not going to be all that useful for every use case, but for certain use cases, it's going to come in really, really handy, specifically that SLA breach use case. All right, last thing that I want to look at from a demo perspective is that widget, the dashboard widget that we've added. And somebody asked earlier, where can we use this? Well, we can use this on our next experience dashboards or workspace-based dashboards. So let's just create one really, really quick, and we'll call this one Academy. We'll call it Process Mining Academy, so I can practice saying that. Process Mining Academy. We'll create a new dashboard. And we'll just add a couple of elements. Let's add some data visualizations. There's some out here already. Process mining, we'll search. Great, let's just add these three elements to the dashboard. We'll say add to dashboard. And I'll move this one down here. Move this one over here. then maybe spread this one out a little bit. There we go. And now we want to add our process mining map, right? So you have a new visualization type called process mining map. We'll add this. And then you have this ability to search for any of the available projects that you've mined. So we'll come in here, we'll say incident process analysis. By default, we'll show maybe 30% of the connections. And then you can do this case simulation. So what this does now is it adds these little, a little bit of animation to it, like little ants moving between the steps. And this faster the line or the faster the dots are moving, that indicates that there's more volume going through that part of the process. And we can exit editing mode. And now I've got this dashboard here where I've got some KPIs. I could add some reports to this dashboard. I've got my process map on here. I can zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. You can start expanding the connections. And then, of course, you can click on any one of these and you can start getting some of the details about what's going on in the process. If you wanted to, you could add a filter to this map, and that would filter both the KPIs as well as the process map. Just use some of the breakdown, aligning it to the breakdowns that you have inside of the map itself. But super powerful. Again, the goal here is to start extending the reach of the powerful process mining insights and get it in the hands of more people. So now people don't have to go to the process mining workspace to start seeing these types of insights are going to start showing up in their dashboards inside of the organization. All right, that's it for the demo piece, and I'll just pause now and see if there's any questions out there. Any questions that we didn't already answer? Got a question here. Is process mining available for the Agile Scrum module? I don't know off the top of my head the Agile which entitlement the Agile Scrum model comes with. If those tables are available as part of ITSM, CSM, HR, App Engine, or strategic portfolio management, then yes. But if the tables that those come with are not aligned to any one of those entitlements, if it's another entitlement that you need in addition to those, the answer would be no. But it's certainly something that I can check in on and maybe just post an answer to the community. Are there any other questions out there on anything that you've seen here today, or you'd say anything at all? Just please put them in the Q&A if you have questions. As we wait for those questions to come in, some additional resources that are out there above and beyond today. Now I have to update this slide to say process mining resources. But there is an on-demand training out there. If you've not seen it, today it's still currently called on the Now Learning site, Process Optimization Essentials, but that will soon be updated to say Process Mining Essentials when the Vancouver version of it comes out. But there is a course out there that will help you get more familiar with the foundational skills and knowledge that you need to take advantage of maybe some of the more advanced things that we showed here today. There's a really good Now on Now white paper out there in terms of how we've attacked process mining here at ServiceNow and how we structured our program and some of the initial findings we had. Our SVP of Analytics, Vijay Kotu, has got a really nice article about the transformative power of process mining on employee experience for those of you that are interested in kind of communicating the value process mining might have to others inside of your organization. Obviously, we have the community forum for process mining. It's currently called Process Optimization, but that will soon be changing. That's a great place for you to go to ask questions about things that we have not covered so far or use cases that you come across as you go through your own mining exercises. We as a team check that on a daily basis and try to respond to you within 24 hours when you post there. In addition to these sessions, what we've added this year is something called the Process Mining Use Case Series. And these are short little 5-minute videos that walk you through how to do the analysis of very specific scenarios like SLA breach analysis or channel analysis or situations in which work is taking longer to route than to resolve. So very specific use cases, quick little techniques that you can use to help you get more comfortable with how to use that analytics process mining, workspace or workbench. To answer some questions. We just recently posted one to help you understand how you could use this to do reprioritization analysis. So things that are being starting out as P1s and then being prioritized down, or vice versa. Obviously, there's different effects on the organization when things get escalated up or de-escalated in terms of from a priority perspective. And then lastly, what we have is we have something we call Live on Now, getting started with ServiceNow's in-platform process mining. So for those of you that this was your first exposure to process mining on the ServiceNow platform, I highly recommend that you check that one out. It walks through all the basics, the building blocks. What is an activity? What is a breakdown? How do I configure and set up my first project for analysis? It's only going to be a matter of minutes for you to learn how to do that. Super straightforward process. I always like to say, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, or if you can build a ServiceNow report, you can visualize a process on the ServiceNow platform. So those are all additional resources above and beyond this. I'll open it up one more time. Any last questions that people might have, please put them in the Q&A. Before we wrap up here today, so last chance for romance. Any questions? I see someone has put in that they're very excited to see that it's coming for SPM or strategic portfolio management. I will tell you that has been the most requested additional capability that we've been asked for over the last couple of months. So we're super excited here at ServiceNow that it's going to be available for you as well. We're getting a lot of interest in IRM lately. And of course, security operations is another one that we're being asked about quite a bit. Any last questions before we wrap up for the day? If not, just as always, I'd like to thank everyone. As I mentioned earlier, the next session is currently scheduled for next month. I think it's the 22nd of September, in which we'll have the strategic portfolio management team on, and they'll be running us through the offering for process mining, or what they've put together from a content pack perspective and some use cases. After that, I think the next one will be, we'll focus in more on those automated findings, how to configure them, some of the properties that go with them. There's lots of different little tweaks you can make to those automated findings to align to the scenarios inside of your organization. And then one that I keep moving down the list, but it's something that we certainly need to do. People are interested in, because what goes into process mining for creative workflow? So I've built a custom application on the platform. I want to apply process mining. What do I need to do? It's really not all that much work, especially now that we have the automated findings. It's actually a kind of cool scenario, but really all you need to do is create the process configuration record and then maybe set up a couple of automated findings, and away you go. But it would be good to have a session for those folks that are interested in it and have that recording out there. So that's the plan right now. As always, as you guys post and ask for sessions, we'll adjust the plan accordingly, because these sessions are for you. But that's the plan as we have it set forth. So last minute questions, anybody? If not, I bid you adieu. Appreciate your time here today. We'll talk to you next month around the community, and happy mining, everyone.